Okay, welcome to the season 8 of the Vedanta classes. So this is the 8th year that we've been having this. I think a few of you have been coming for the last 8 years, but we have had different batches of people who came for many years and then moved on, and we have covered a lot. But it is in the ocean of the knowledge in the Vedanta, it is but a drop. But the sweetness, the greatness is Gita. If you consider the Vedic literature as a garden of flowers, Gita is the honey collected from all of those flowers. So if whatever we are going to study and we have studied in the Gita is going to apply to everything. It's like the honey from everything in the Vedic literature, the Upanishads, the Suktas, all of this, right? So it should not be disheartened that after all these years, we are still at the drop, which is probably what we're going to be for many, many more years, right? So the last time I think we stopped at chapter 3, verse 15. Right, verse 15. Okay, Yajna Chakra. So before we go to that, since we have had some long break of 3 months, let's summarize what we have done from first chapter, about 10 minutes or something. There's no clock here, but and then we can come back to where we stopped last time. So how did it start? The Kaurava and the Pandava armies are facing each other, for their final battle. The first sloka of the Gita is Dharmakshetre, Kurukshetre, Samavetaha, Yuyutsavaha, Mamakaha, Pandavaschaiva, Kimakurvata Sanjaya. So Dhritarashtra is asking Sanjaya, this is at the 10th day, after the news that Bhishma died in the battle comes to Dhritarashtra, then he wants to know what all happened and how did it come to this state that Bhishma of all the people was actually shot down on the 10th day. So Sanjaya starts from the first day of what happened, and he says the two armies were facing each other, and there was Arjuna had this thing. He was at the start he was on a high, right? His ego was very inflated. Even though he was a very sattvic jiva. But it's a situation. It was a war. He was a great warrior. He was on a high, and Vyasa introduces that state of mind with the shloka. He says where Arjuna says, "Senayor ubhayor madhye ratham me stapaya achyuta." He says in the high, Arjuna is telling Krishna, "Hey, take my chariot to the center, to the middle, where I can see both the Pandava and the Kaurava army, as if Krishna is an average charioteer." So Krishna, right? The next minute he will deflate the ego. So what he does, there's a huge regiment of Kaurava army, huge regiment of Pandava army facing each other, and Kurus, the family of Arjuna, and the Kuru is probably 50 to 100 at the most. He could have taken the chariot and stationed it anywhere, but he takes it where the Kurus are there, so that everything becomes magnified to Arjuna, right? So he goes in front of the Kurus and says, "Look at all the Kurus who have assembled here to fight with you." And then suddenly the ego, which was so inflated for Arjuna, is deflated when he sees Bhishma, Drona, his friends that he had played with in childhood, his kith and kin and all of those guys, which is probably nothing compared to the large army regiment that was ready for the war. But he just sees his people, and then everything gets magnified, and his ego is completely deflated. And then now he's giving the rationale, and he has this kind of a depression, anxiety, stress, everything together. He cannot even hold his bow. And now he gives all the rationale for why war is not good. It's not good for the society, right? His arguments are correct, right? But Krishna, at the beginning of the second chapter, just says one thing. Kutastva kashmalamidam vishame samupastitam anaryajustam asvargyam akirtikaram Arjuna. He just scratches the surface. He says, where is this unmanliness coming? Why are you talking like this, like a coward? Only Krishna can survive telling this to Arjuna. If anybody else had done that, they would be dead. But Krishna says, why is this cowardliness at this hour? Vishamaya samupastitam is at this hour when you are supposed to fight. Where is this unmanliness coming? This is anaryajustam. Civilized do not do like this. Asvargyam, it does not lead to good end. Akirtikaram, you will lose your name. You cannot do this. He tries to bring back Arjuna, and also within that message is, hey, whatever you are saying that society gets destroyed, people are killed and all of those things is true if you do not fight the evil, not if you fight the evil, is what he's trying to say. War is good if you stop the evil on its tracks, not if you let it go. Right? So the war is a good tool depending on who you use it with. He tries to do that with one shloka, but his Arjuna's depression is a lot more than just one shloka. So he goes on, and in the end, he says, Arjuna says to Krishna, this is really something that have deeply upset me. I take you as my guru, you need to show me the direction. So that's when, from that inflated ego, everything is deflated, and he comes to the learning mode. I want to learn, I want to understand what is the best thing for me to do. Right? That's where we stop at second chapter. So in the second chapter, what do we have? What are the two things Krishna teaches in the second chapter? Before yoga, what does he teach? Sankhya. What is Sankhya? Okay, what kind of knowledge?
The knowledge of detachment.
Correct. Right? Knowledge of Atma. Shuddha Atma Tattva Vijnanam Sankhya. So, it is knowledge of Atma. So, he starts with Sankhya, which is kind of theoretical knowledge, which leads to next step is yoga. Yoga is not yogasana that we do. It is yoga means that which we use. Yoga means skill. Sankhya means knowledge in the Gita. So, he teaches both the skill and the theory. He starts with the theory. What are the three things that he teaches in the second chapter in Sankhya? We looked at three main ideas that he teaches.
Body and soul is different.
Number one, right? So that is first thing, which is the root of everything else, is there is a jiva apart from the body. That is, we are not our bodies, is the first thing he teaches.
Illusion of control.
Right. So what does this tell us, or what does this give, is what? Jiva, but even leaving the jiva aside, it invests us with a certain power.
Detachment from a sensory object.
Right? So it gives you the power, or in other words it says, what happens to you is not as important as how you react to it. And you have the power to react independent of the body. Right? Whatever the situation is, you can change the perspective, you can change everything and make it feasible for you to react in a certain way. That it infuses you with that power. Right? That's what Krishna is saying. If you are the body, you do not have that power. If you go to lower animal kingdom, it is like whatever stimulus is given, you expect the same kind of reaction again and again and again. There is no learning there, right? So, but in man, that buddhi is more developed, and we have a reactive power, right? Which can be developed. That's what sadhana is the power to develop that reactive reaction, the power of reaction. So that comes only with the knowledge of detachment of Deha and the Atma. Atma and Deha, two different entities, right? That number one. Number two, as he said, there are two delusions that everybody is in. Number one,
Control.
delusion of permanence and delusion of control. Two things, right? Rajas is delusion of control. Tamas is delusion of permanence. What is delusion of permanence? What does when Krishna says, Dehe asmin No, dehino asmin yatha dehe kaumaram yauvanam jara tata dehantara praptihi dhirastatra na muhyate. That means we have one witness who goes through the state of childhood, youth and old age, but the I that I was as a child, as I was a teenager, as a youth, as old, doesn't change. So the body changes, but the jiva, the witness who is witnessing these changes do not change. And the illusion of permanence is what? What does it... See, if Vedanta says nothing is permanent, what kind of things that it inspires in you? Is it depressing or inspiring, first of all? Tell me, not just because Krishna said that. If somebody tells you everything is impermanent, are you inspired or depressed? That's what I'm asking.
Life sucks now. It inspires you. Depends on situation, right?
You need both.
You need both of what?
You need certain stability and you need certain changes.
Yeah.
If you're happy, you want it to be permanent.
Right.
If you're depressed, you want it to change.
Right.
I mean, if you're too excited, this makes you to control. Balanced, if you're depressed, it makes you to come out. So it's like, there.
But once you come out, then again, this too shall pass, right?
Yeah, of course. When you have that mindset, you have to always keep that going. I mean, you can't just,
I think more than anything else, it just gives you a reality. It's something which
That is, change is constant is reality, right? The second principle of Sankhya is everything changes, right? Except for the witness who is looking at the change, and the Parabrahman who is also in a relationship of Bimba, Pratibimba with the Atma. They don't change. What this impermanence is telling you is, get your priorities right. Everything's change, people change, but what are the two things that do not change? What are two akshayas? What you know, what you have done, or what you are doing. They don't, right? Or certain things of good karma is inexhausted, right? And the transformation that occurs through knowledge, once you are transformed, you are a different person. It's completely there, right? So what it is saying is, focus on that which is permanent and discard that which is not permanent. So when Krishna says change is constant and everything is impermanent, he is only telling you to prioritize what is permanent over what is not permanent. That means people are not permanent, but how we treat them and how we are with them, what we learn, these are all permanent. Right? People come and go. Things come and go. But how you treated them, how you are treating them, how you have been with them, what you have learned. Right? In the Kathopanishad it says, you are born again depending on yatha karma yatha shrutam, what you have done and what you have heard, which means what you know.
So basically past action is permanent.
Yeah, I mean, it's
happened, it has occurred.
two, right? We have learned two kinds of actions. Actions that are kamya karmas, it is something that you get and then you lose, right? But akshaya karma, I'm talking about good things that you have done will always shield you, never go away. But things that you have done for selfish gains, you will get the gain, but you lose it. I mean, it's very exhaustive. You have to do it again and again and again. And that's the nature of kamya karma, right? So, that is what is the nature of kamya karma. But any other karma that you have done, sattvika karma, will be a shield for ever. It is permanent. The same way, any knowledge that is transformative transforms you and it is permanent.
So, what you're saying, if you look at a certain person, right, your reaction to him, your action to him, whatever you do to him, look at the inside, which is going to go with you.
Yeah.
Don't just think, okay, this is a person. It's how you treat the people.
Exactly.
So you don't actually hurt anybody, because that person, you're not hurting him, you're actually hurting the soul.
I mean, by hurting, you might have a certain high for a few seconds or a few minutes or a few days. And then eventually you're going to come back to your base level. In psychology they call that base level of happiness. If you're a miserable person, whatever wealth you have, you're miserable. Whatever you don't have, you're miserable, right? So you only have a certain high, a certain low, and then you come back to it. They call it resilience. You always maintain that level that you always had. It's only learning that takes the base level higher, right? But things that, ego and sensory things, they only give you a certain high, and then a new car or something. When somebody asks you, hey, you got a new car? There's a high, right? You feel that high, and then you come back to that base level again. Again, the same with depression as well, right? You lose something, you think I cannot live without it, and then after a few months or something, you come back to the base level. So these losing and gainings, you get a high or you get the depression and come back to the base level, right? So that is not permanent. Permanent is that which actually takes the base level to a higher level and keeps it there. That is your learning and your akshay karmas, good karmas, transformative karmas, which are jnana sadhanas, that lead to knowledge, lead to understanding. Those kinds of karmas and knowledge, they take it higher. Okay? So impermanence, even though it's very depressing, Krishna is not talking about that kind of impermanence. He's only talking about priorities that you need to set based on this principle that everything changes. Today things may be like this, but rest assured, tomorrow it's going to change. Whether you do things or you don't do, things change. People change. We grow old. People, when you are at the peak, some other people are not, then, they grow into that role, and you no longer are in that peak. So, that's the nature of time, right? So things change, but there are things that are permanent. Focus on those permanent things. That's the second principle of Samkhya, right? Third, what is the third principle of Samkhya? Which is illusion of control. What is illusion of control?
We think we control.
We think we turn the light switch off.
Exactly, right? So, we think, which is the delusion of man, that we control outcomes when all we control is our effort. The famous karmanyevadhikarastha is that. We do not control outcome. Outcome is an outcome of series of causal chains, and we are one of the cogs in it, or one of the chains in it, right? We do, and I gave an example of the bulb. You say, I turn the light on, and the light comes on, and you are in the delusion that you turn the light on. Next time you turn the light on, light does not come on, then you say, I turn the switch on, then there needs to be power, the bulb needs to be good, and there should be, the connection should be right, then all of these things should happen, then the light comes on. So then you understand, it's not just me, light on, it's me and all the other things need to be in place for the light to turn on. So I am just controlling the effort, not the outcome. So that is the illusion. Illusion of control says, people are under the delusion that they control the outcome. Karmanyeva adhikaraste ma phaleshu. Phala in our terms is outcome, fruit or outcome. Outcome, ma phaleshu. You never have control over outcome. Karmani eva. In your effort alone you have the control, not in the outcomes. Right? So that is the third principle. So with these three principles, the next one was how to put into practice. See what are the three things. The Sankhya is under what? In these three.
Yeah.
Right? So this is kind of, man has three systems. This is kind of cognitive system, the awareness, things we know. This is emotions, right? Emotional things. And this karma is what? Behavior, right? Here, which is superior and which is more powerful?
It's all the same. There's no...
No, they're all the same, but there is a relative, in the sense, they're all the same as in, they have a positive kind of a loop, that they spin it upwards.
Karma is higher.
Bhakti is higher,
Karma.
karma is higher. Now I asked two things. What is superior and what is powerful? Don't think about Vedic literature. Think about experience. I'm talking about experience. Is knowing powerful or behavior powerful?
Behavior powerful is more important.
I'm not asking about be important. I'm asking about what it is. Is behavior more powerful or knowing more powerful? Why do you say that?
Because after knowing, if you don't behave it, then it is
Correct, right? After this class, we go out and behave like saints or like our usual selves. Right? Reality, right? So what is powerful? Behavior. Behavior is nothing but a bunch of habits, right? To change it is not easy. Just knowing doesn't change things, right? That's why you need sadhana. Implementation. So the more powerful among these three is actually karma, behavior. Karma is very powerful. The superior among these three is jnana. Right? But again, when I say three, bhakti comes with jnana, bhakti comes with karma, both. Emotions are necessary to act as well as to know. Knowing generates emotions, emotions generate knowledge, all of those things are there. So, among knowledge and actions, action is very powerful. Right? It's like you are in two levels, you come to Gita class, it takes you here, cognition is here, and then because there is some kind of dissonance, you come back again. Because this pulls you down to where it is. Right?
It has to be the right knowledge.
Right knowledge, but it is a sadhana. So it needs to be implemented. Right? So it is implemented as in creating the habit.
You can get the wrong knowledge and start trying to implement the wrong knowledge.
Yeah, right. So knowledge is superior because it is the light that shows the direction. Because action without a direction is useless. Right? It's like running on a spinning wheel. It's not taking you anywhere.
And they're all tied together because bhakti, which is emotion, eventually manifests as behavior.
Correct. That's why you have these double arrows, right? So that's good behavior induces positive emotions, right? Good emotions. And then you get good understanding. And there is a positive spiral. Then it induces more good actions. More good actions lead to more good emotions, positive emotions. You want to learn, then you know more. Right? It's a positive spin. The same way you can have a negative spin. I don't know, I behave badly, it induces even more anger and jealousy and all of this, then it takes me down and down. And so you can either be in a positive spiral or in a negative spiral. You can be in both. But the more powerful between knowledge and behavior is behavior. And sadhana means that. Sadhana means behaving a certain way, sattvic way. That is sadhana. Sadhana is not knowing. You can know, anybody can know. Right? That's also, it's only, it is Shravana, Manana, Didhyasa. Shravana is listening, knowing. Manana is reflecting. And Didhyasa is implementing, understanding. So that when you go through that stages, then knowledge is baked into a behavior change. Otherwise, it comes back to the base behavior. That's why people, can go to classes, can go to pravachans and all of those things year after year and still be the same people when they come out. Right?
Unless you get bhakti coming out.
No, that's what. Unless it induces a transformation, it is the same. Nothing changes. Right? That is why sadhana is. Sadhana is not just knowing, reflecting on what you heard, and then implementing that into behavior, then it becomes Didhyasa. That is the transformation. It is transformation, it's not just knowing, it is transforming. Right? It changes, not just know. Right? So that is what the yoga is teaching about. So the yoga is a tool of what? It is a tool of changing karma and bringing that to the level of knowing. And also changing knowing by pursuing the right things of doing. So this is knowing, this is doing. So if you do the right things, you will get to understand knowing. If you know the right things, by changing the habits and cultivating positive things, then your doing comes back to that higher level than it was in the base that it was. Right? So that is a yoga. Yoga is yujyate anena iti yoga. That means that by which things happen. Yoga means skill. Basically, yoga means skill. Right? It's not yogasana. That's a different thing. Yoga in Gita means skill. That by which things happen. Means it's a skill. Krishna himself defines yoga as karmasu kaushalam. That means the skill in the work that we do, action that we do is what yoga is. So that is yoga. And in yoga he shows how these things are implemented. our attitude towards change, because change is the only constant, how we behave towards change, what do we perceive or pursue as permanent and what we pursue as impermanent, and illusion of control, how do you focus on the effort and do not care about outcome. All of those things are in the end of the second chapter, right? The end part of the second chapter was about yoga. So then we came to the third chapter. And the third chapter is what? Karma yoga. And what was the issue that led to the third chapter?
I think it's Arjuna saying to Krishna, right? So, why are asking me to kill? Yeah, why are you asking me to do something when you know it is bad?
So in Arjuna's mind,
Conflicting instruction.
conflicting, right? So he says, Jayasi chet karmanaste mata buddhi tat kim karmani goremam niyodesi. Anybody would ask this. He's saying, you have said earlier that knowing is superior to doing. Not powerful, superior. Because knowing gives you the direction for doing, so it is superior to doing. So if that is true, then you should make me go to the path of knowing, not to the path of doing. War is path of doing, and in no way can lead to knowledge. It is not meditative practice, it is not pranayama, it is not deeper reflection. War is war, right? You have anger, jealousy, all of those things are there. So there is in no way can lead to knowing. So instead of telling me to go and do practices that lead to knowledge, because knowledge is superior, you're asking me to go fight the war. Right? I don't understand. It's not just war. It's not just any activity. It's a war. Where what? It's a ghora karma. That is where killing, bad emotions, revenge, all of these are involved. Everything comes out. It's a negative spiral, right? It takes you down. Then, if that is true, like you said in the second chapter, I would have, wanted you to ask me to go pursue knowledge, not to go pursue war. But it looks like you are telling me to go pursue this war where all this death and negative emotions are there, and there is no way that this can lead to knowledge. So I do not understand. So it says, Vyamishrena iva vakyena buddhim mohayasiva me. By this mixing these things, in one hand you are saying, oh Arjuna, go and fight the war, you should fight the war. In the other hand you are saying, knowledge is very superior, you should pursue knowledge. And there is no connection between war and knowledge. So, Vyamishrena, Mishra Vakya, you are telling both. Buddhim mohayasiva me. You are confusing my buddhi, my judgment is confused. Tadekam vada nischitya, yena sarvam shreyaham apnuya. Tell me one thing for sure, which is the path that I should pursue. Is Arjuna's question. Right? Which is correct. But the confusion of Arjuna's question is what? What has Arjuna assumed? What has he assumed? No, that's true.
That Krishna is asking him to leave the war and go on the path of
No.
knowledge. That's why he asked the question. Why are you?
No. He. That's why he's asking the question, because Krishna said you need to fight the war, and he's also saying action is inferior, knowledge is superior. And Arjuna is confused. Why are you saying that and also telling me to do this? That is the confusion. But why is this confusion arising in Arjuna's mind? He has assumed something. What has he assumed?
Because Arjuna is saying in the middle of the war.
Correct.
So he's assuming that he can actually stop all action.
He doesn't need action.
No, even before that.
He's assuming he doesn't need action.
Because he's going to
He-
do
he-
more karma.
He is assuming that there is a path of pure knowledge and there's a path of pure action. That's what he has assumed. Right?
And that knowledge, path of knowledge, means absolutely no action.
Exactly. I mean, he's not, or minimal action towards knowledge.
Correct.
Right? So he is thinking this is independent, there is no link here. There is a path of pure action, or no, not this one. A path of pure action, path of pure knowledge. But that's the wrong assumption, because knowledge is tied to behavior is tied to knowledge, they are both tied to bhakti, emotions. All of them are tied together. So that is the basic problem. So Krishna, what does he say? Loke asmin dvividha nishta. There are two paths in this world that leads to the final good, shreyas. what? Jnana yogena sankhyanam, karma yogena yoginam. There is a Jnana yoga and there is a Karma yoga. Both of them involve bhakti. What does Jnana yoga mean? Jnana yoga means Jnana prachura yoga. That means it involves those kinds of karma which leads to knowledge. It is not zero karma. It has, that is meditation, deep samadhi, fasting, all of those practices that lead to it. The focus is more on individual level, right? It's individual sannyasa, right? It's individual sadhana. They sometimes live outside of society. So that is Sankhya, the path of Sankhya, which is also one of the paths. And there is a path of yoga, which is where karma is more. That is where you live in the society and then you take up the responsibilities of the society so that you give direction to the people, you show the way, and you stop evil in its tracks. So these are the responsibilities. I mean, you govern people so that they thrive and they indulge in spiritual practices. This whole society thrives, and also you stop evil on its tracks. So this is the yogi responsibility. The people who live in society and practice knowledge also have responsibilities to govern people, show them the way, and also fight the evil. Right? All of these are responsibilities of yogi. And then Sankhya. So karma yogis and jnana yogis. Karma yogis are those who live in society and do all this. Jnana yogis, they go outside of society and they do all this. But Arjuna is a warrior. Is he a Sankhya yogi or a karma yogi? He is a karma yogi. So, and also his assumption that actions are not needed in jnana yoga is also wrong. Right? Because what Krishna says is, Nahi kaschit kshanamapi jato tishtat akarma krita. That means there is nobody who can stay inactive even for a second. Action is default. Inaction is not default. You have to put effort to be inactive. To be active is default. Right? You're smiling. You have a story.
No. It's just effort about putting effort to be inactive.
No.
No,
I will tell you one story. Okay, I need to tell you this story then. I think I read this somewhere, but it's very interesting. It was one of those sitcoms that play on TV. I think one of the episodes was this guy who was living a very pure evil life, right? And he dies, and he's received by an angel. And the angel takes him to what he thinks is heaven, and then it says, whatever you ask for will be given, shall be given to you. And he asks for everything. I want this, I want gold, women, this, that, everything. And everything is given. He's like, I thought I will, land in hell, but it looks like, probably something has happened. I'm enjoying. And the more and more he is enjoying, and the only thing he is not allowed to do is put effort. He should not act, right? He should just sit and enjoy. He enjoys in the beginning and all that, and then what happens with enjoyment? After the initial high goes away, you come back, then he starts feeling bored, right? Then he asks that angel, I need something to do. Because I'm getting bored. I'm not doing anything. I'm just enjoying. I have everything I want. Initially, because I had not seen that, suddenly it was all exciting, and I was like, in pure heaven. And now it's like, everything. I have no stimulation anymore. It's all common. So I need something to be stimulated. So you give me something, and then he says, no, this is where you want it to be, right? So you cannot put effort. That's it. All you can do is consume. And then finally he says, I want to go. I want to see how hell is. And then I have not seen this episode, but in the book they say the scene goes to the face of that angel, and he turns into devil. This is the hell. That's basically what hell is. He cannot do anything. He's completely bored, and he's dying. So, and which is a very important lesson, that effort and stimulation is actually the base level, the default. Inactivity is not. Inactivity, when there's a lot of activity, to kind of get back that energy, that's fine. But after a while, you get completely bored and you need activity. So because activity is the default, inactivity is not default. Right? Which is exactly what Krishna is saying. So activity is default, and therefore nobody can stay without acting at all. And so the question is not whether to be inactive or active, its question is how to act correctly so that you make transforming changes. So that is what it is. And then he comes to the concept of yajna. What is yajna? He says, in which one? In Shloka 9, yajnarthat karmano anyatra lokoyam karma bandhana. Right? And tadartam karma kaunteya mukta sangha samachara. Any action done as a yajna is the only thing that does not bind you in the cycle of action and fruits and action and fruits. It frees you. What is yajna?
It's basically any action that is contributory so that you can receive.
No, it's contributory, yes,
So that you can
for what you have received
Any action that is done without a desire.
No, it's
as an obligation. Yeah, without it.
it precedes receiving. You give so that you can receive.
Yeah, so you have gone back to the Jyotisha class, I think, for somewhere. Yes, that's true. Yeah,
Paying bills.
paying. But again, it's a cycle, right? So whether receiving is first or giving is first is not in a cycle. You don't know where is the beginning.
Correct, but the twist of that is you give out of recognition and awareness that you are just part of a bigger system
Correct.
and a cycle.
Okay. So when we are born, what are the 3 debts we carry? Which is what we are paying in life. No, not those. Don't mix up the Jyotisha class with this. Even though the concept are the same, but it's not Pitru Dosha, but it's Pitru Runa. Right? What Runa is debt. Pitru Runa, okay? Then Deva Runa, and then Rishi Runa. 3 Runas. And what are the 5 yajnas that we do to pay for these runas, these debts? 5 Panchamahayajnas. Pitru Yajna, Rishi Yajna, Bhuta Yajna, Manusha Yajna, Deva Yajna. Okay? But that is all in Sanskrit. Tell me in things that we know. What is Deva Yajna? Huh? No, what is Deva Yajna?
Offering
To the forces of nature, right? Man is born in 3 domains, right? What are the 3 domains that man is born into? No, 3 domains. You guys need to take nice notes. You forgot, what was it, 4 months? No, what are the 3 domains in which we are born? Huh? No. 3 domains. That is Adhi, Adhidaivika, Adhibhautika, Adhyatmika. Right? 3. What is Adhyatmika mean? We are born into the body and the mind. Right? This is individual level. That is one domain. Adhibhuta means we are born simultaneously into society because we are within people. And then we are also simultaneously born into nature. So when man is born, he is born in 3 domains. He is born into his own body, and then he is born into society, and then he is born into nature. So these 3 things means we need to pay the debts for these 3 domains. Right? When we are saying paying the debt for nature, what are we doing? We are paying back for what we have received from nature or what we are receiving. And in plain English, which Americans and westernized Indians understand, what does that mean?
Recycling.
Sustainability. Sustained living, right? Basically that's what Krishna is saying. Man and nature are part of each other. They give and take with each other. If that cycle is gone, there will be havoc. Which is nothing but, in plain English, sustainable living, right? But here there is a concept of natural forces, which devatas are the forces of nature, who are receiving it and they are also giving. Examples of those being natural phenomena, right? Rain, all of those things that nature is giving in bounty to us, food, everything is coming through us, and in the body, our health, right? Bodily actions. We don't control any of our digestion, right? It all happens. So these are all that nature gives to us, and it is our responsibility as yajna to give back, so that, because why? We dip into nature to sustain ourselves. So you need to dip to only that level to keep it sustained. So you have a obligation to give back and restore the balance. That's basically what Daiva Yajna is, right? But you bring in the Gita, you bring the Devas and all of those things, because they are the forces of nature. They are the conscious entities behind the forces of nature. Okay? That is Daiva Yajna. That is man and nature balance. Pitru Yajna. What is Pitru Yajna? Which is, in what domain is Deva Yajna? Daiva domain, right? Adidaiva. Pitru Yajna is in what domain? Adibhautika. What is Pitru Yajna? And what is the next 15 days? I think we've already passed. Right? Shraddha, right? This is Pitru Paksha. Very, very important. Especially the Amavasya that's coming. It's called Mahalaya. Very important to express the gratitude to the forefathers, through who we have received, language, culture, traditions and all that, in each families, right? So that's Pitru Paksha.
Is that 4th of October or 6th?
I think 4th or so, whenever the Amavasya. So, okay, what is Pitru Yajna?
Ancestors. Ancestors.
Okay, what are we giving? What did we receive first of all? Have we received anything? No, genes. No, genes is actually Adidaiva. Right? It's even their genes they don't control. Right? What they controlled and gave to us. Traditions, right? Language, right? And all the practices, culture. Basically society and culture, right? Society gives us culture. So culture is in which domain? Adibhuta, right? So how do you give back to Pitru Yajna? By maintaining the tradition. Language traditions, cultural traditions, family traditions, all of this, when you maintain that line, and then what is the other important thing for Pitru Yajna? Very important component.
Child.
Bearing a child, right? So that's when Pitrus get happy, when you have children. Right? That Pitru Dasha is that. Right? So this is Pitru Runa and Pitru Yajna. Doing for culture. Contributing to the culture is Pitru Yajna. Then Bhuta Yajna. What is Bhuta Yajna? No, Bhuta Yajna. Yeah, we'll do Rishi also. What is Bhuta Yajna?
Offering to the animals.
Offering to the animals. Right? Our obligation to animal kingdom. Maintaining it. Protecting it. All of those things are nothing but Bhuta Yajna. Then
Again, that's another version of sustainability, isn't it?
exactly, right? I mean, every one of these is kind of sustainable, right? You're sustaining your culture, you're sustaining the nature, you're sustaining nature through the animals. All of those things are sustaining.
Does it include plants?
Yeah. It's more of animals, but Adibhuta is also plants. I mean, it's anything other than people. In the nature is this thing. Okay, Bhuta. And then Manushya Yajna. What is Manushya Yajna? Society, right? People. What is that? How do you do a Manushya Yajna?
Offering, feeding some food.
Feeding people, Annadana, Annadana is a Manushya Yajna.
Yeah.
Charity is a Manushya Yajna. Anything that you do to help people,
Social service.
social services that helps people. So all of these becomes part of Manushya Yajna. So that is one of the, and finally what is the other Yajna? Rishi Yajna. So these Yajnas, the Daiva Yajna is in the Daiva, it's a Daiva Rona. Rishi Yajna, and then Bhuta Yajna, and then Manushya Yajna is in society domain, right? Adibhautika. And then this thing is, Rishi Yajna is Adhyatmika. That means we have an obligation to spread the knowledge, send it so that the next generation knows. Right? It is your obligation to see that, at least since we do not control the outcome, just the effort, at least try to bring those knowledge and practices to the next generation so that they get interested and they spread it. So these are the different kinds of yajnas. These are 5 kinds of duties that everybody has. Right? When you are born in this human form, we have 5 obligations that we do. And then Krishna goes on to say, what happens if some people do not do their duty here? Because I think one of the yajna shishta ashinaha santaha muchyante karma kilbishaihi sarva kilbishaihi bunjate te tu agam papaha ye pachanti atmakaranat. Pachanti atmakaranat is giving one example. If you go back to Indian, I think now Indian villages where these practices are, they cook food and they do not eat until they have offered it to animal. They call it Vaishvadeva. And if there is any guest or somebody that they can offer, then only they start eating. Right? This is Pachanti Atma Karanat is you cook for yourself. That is the worst kind. Right? Without offering first, if you eat your own food, it's basically you are eating your papa karma.
Yeah, there is one of the tradition. You take first roti and keep on the top of the roof, and the bird will come.
Many of them, right, especially in the villages where it's it's still there, they do that. Feed the dog or keep it for birds. They first offer it to the animals, Bhuta, Vishvadeva, they call it Vishvadeva, Vaishvadeva, and then they offer it to guests or anybody else, and then only they consume the food. So this is the duty of the householder. That's what is the part. So this is a chakra. This is, Krishna says, this is a cycle. And what is the cycle? Yajna is the part of a cycle. This obligation is a part of the cycle. And I think in the last class that's where we started. Yajna chakra. Yajna chakra is, what is the Yajna chakra? He says, Annat bhavanti bhutani. Right? Parjanyat anna sambhava. Yajnat bhavati parjanyaha. Yajna karma samudbhavam. Karma brahmodbhavam vidhi. Brahma akshara samudbhavam. Tasmat sarvagatam brahma nityam yajna pratishtita. So there is a cycle that is gone from creation, and it is just going on from creation to destruction and again creation. It's a cycle. And we are contributing to it. And what is that cycle? Let's go through again. Where is this? What is anna? What does anna mean? Okay, don't tell me rice, right? It's food. Anna means food. So, anna, food, I'll just write food. Anna bhavanti bhutani means what? Bhuta deha. Body comes from food.
You eat what you like.
You are what you eat, right? So food is from, body is from food. 2 kinds. I think I was explaining 2 kinds, right? One is sustaining and one is creating. Food creates bodies, food sustains bodies. We know about food sustains bodies. We eat and that food transforms into our body. That is, food sustains our body. How is food creating body? Food creates body. You forgot? It's a long story. Okay, then I'll have to write that. Okay. How does food transform into body?
I just said that. Get into blood.
Okay, so we'll have to go through. Right? Okay. So you have food, right? Anna. What is the first thing that happens when it goes to the digestive tract?
It goes to body building blocks. It gets
Correct,
assimilated
right?
into the body.
So it becomes rasa. Basically the nutrients, right? Not the excretory part, the nutrients that builds the body, right? Rasa. Then rakta. You do not have direct translation. Rakta, it's not just blood, it's all the serum, in the body. Rakta, and then mamsa. What is mamsa? Huh? Muscle. Yeah. Mamsa is muscle. Meda. fat, right? Mamsa, meda. Then asti, bone and also hair and nails and all of those things. And teeth is asti. Right? Asti, then majja. What is majja? Nervous system. Right? And then
Excess becomes fat.
huh? What?
Excess becomes fat.
Excess becomes fat.
Fat. We haven't mentioned fat.
Oh, here?
That is the meda.
Meda.
Meda is fat.
Meda is fat. And then finally, shukra.
That's the last one. Fat is the last one.
Okay? Shukra. Shukra is
Waste.
what? Shukra is sperm. Yeah. Or in the females, whatever eggs or something. Yeah. So this is, food is transformed in the sense that it transforms into all of these things, and the best part comes to shukra. Right? Now, how does new body get formed from food? Now, how does jiva, who has come back to this world, Upanishad, I think I've also explained in here, go back to get a body. Okay, how does jiva enter into father's body?
To the rain.
Father's body. To the rain is already in food. So jiva is in food. Right? When we fall down as spores, we get into, I think I remember the last conversation is, there was an apple, and the father was about to grab it, then a monkey grabbed it and ate, and that the jiva became a monkey instead of becoming a man. Right? So that was it, all determined by karma. Right? So how does jiva enter into the father's body? Through the food. Jiva enters through the food and gets lodged here in the shukra. Right? And then it gets the body in the mother's womb and then grows. So this is how new body is formed. So annat bhavanti bhutani, sustaining, our food sustains our body, and then our food also creates new body. Because jiva is lodged in the food that we eat, and then gets lodged through the food, gets lodged in the sperms of the father's body. So then it attains body.
Jiva is only in the living things, right? Jiva is only can stay in the living things. How can it stay in the food?
No. Jiva is everywhere actually. I mean, it is like spores. It's fallen everywhere.
But the spore is also a kind of a living thing.
No. What I'm saying is, jiva, when it comes to the body, gets abhimana. Like the body gets attached to the jiva and it controls the body. But here, this jiva does not control the food. It does not feel that, oh, this food is my body. It is a carrier. This is a carrier. Only when it gets through the shukra and gets the body in mother's womb, then it gets an attachment. Until then, all of these are carriers of jiva. They are not the bodies of jiva. Right? Jiva is, at this moment, there are millions of jivas in this room. Right? All fallen. So some of them gets into the food and are consumed. Right? Basically, that's what it is. So then, they get into the mother's body and then get a body. So there are two kinds. Basically, two kinds of food generating body is one sustaining and one creating. So I think this is where we ended last time. Right? Annat bhavanti bhutani. And then, what happens? Where does Anna come from? Parjanya Anna Sambhava. What is Parjanya?
Right. Cloud and rain.
Right. Comes under which category? Aditya. You guys, Dvadasha, one of the Adityas is Parjanya, right? So Parjanya here is used as sun and also cloud maker, rain maker, sun. Sun and rains, basically. So I think the thing is. So let's say food gives body, and sun and rain bring food. Right? And the Aditya Hridaya is very beautiful in the Ramayana. it says, tapatyesha vashatyesha gavastibihi. That means, he heats up, right? Payatyesha, tapatyesha, vashatyesha gavastibihi. That means, he heats up, he drinks payati, and then he vasha. That means, he rains. So that's a water cycle. So rain is because of sun. So this Parjanya is rainmaker. Basically, rainmaker is Parjanya. So he causes the rain and then also sustains the plant life, which gives us the food. And again, the food is not just vegetarian. Even animals are food, right? So animals consume the plants and they become secondary food. So all of them are dependent on sun and rains for food sustenance. So this is Parjanyat Anna Sambhava. Then Yajnat Bhavati Parjanya. This was the missing link, right? Here, Yajna causes the sun or the rain. Was the missing link. We'll go through this and then come back to this. Parjanyat Yajna Sambhava, and then what is it? Karma? No, what was the other one? Can you... Yajnat Bhavati Parjanya, Yajna Karma Samudbhavam, right? So, Yajna Karma. Yajna is our actions. So, Yajna comes from actions. And then Karma comes from God, Brahma, Parabrahma. And it's a God. Okay? Who is the one with the real power of action? Who is the independent actor and who is the dependent actor?
Sun and rain.
Right? God is independent, we are dependent. Right? We are the channels through which actions happen. The power of action is invested in us and we channelize that. But the real power is in the hands of God. Right? So Brahma, karma comes from Brahma, and where does Brahma come from? Comes from?
Brahma is like Jiva, all the Jivas.
No. After all these years? No. Brahma, how can Brahma be all of the Jivas?
Because it's a formation of the God, right?
No, Brahman as in God himself. Brahman, not Brahma Devata. I'm talking about Brahman, God, Parabrahma, infinite God. Where does he come from?
He is not created.
Well, I'm not saying where he comes from as in where he is created from, no. Where he comes from to us. Right? Veda. Can existence or non-existence of God be proved or disproved either through direct experience or through inference? Pratyaksha Anumana. Can you do that? Where does the idea of God come from? Come from? Veda. Without Veda, can you imagine God? You cannot. You cannot imagine because the concept is not something that we experience. It's out of our experience field. And therefore we cannot even imagine because imagination is kind of combination of all the things that we experience. Right? You combine it in different ways and you imagine new things. But the concept of God is something completely different. You can neither experience it directly nor can you infer it. I'm talking about the first time. Then once you have known through the Vedas, then you can get the pratyakshatva, through samadhi and all that. But the first coming up with the idea of God. So idea of God is not a creation of man, because the idea cannot take effect in man's imagination, because it's extrasensory. The concept is completely out of our imagination. So this has to come from, that's why it's called Apaurushaya. Vedas are called Apaurushaya because it's not a creation of man. It is something that has come to us as coming and not as our creation. Right? That's why it's called Apaurushaya. So
people who created Vedas might have experienced God, and that's why they wrote it.
No, they've experienced Veda. Knowledge has, arisen in their minds, but not. And they always felt that it is something that was given to them, it's not their own creation. So that's why it's called Apaurushaya. So, And again, when they got it, they already knew the concept of God. Right? They cannot go to samadhi state or some deep meditative state without a concept of God. So it was concept of God is always a given, and it is not a creation of mankind. Right? That's the concept here. And Veda is comes from where? Us chanting, us knowing. Right? This is the chakra. Okay. In this chakra, which part do we control and which we don't? Do we control this food? To a certain extent, it's both nature and a little bit of man, but also without us, we'll have food. So this is purely natural. A little bit of man's efforts are also there. This one? No. This one? Right? Knowing, it's our effort. This is, it's there given. This is, it's God.
Purushakara, where does Purushakara comes there? Karma is equals Purushakara, this is your own.
Yeah.
Right?
This is Purushakara. This one.
Yeah, but he said it's only controlled by God, it's not you.
Which one?
Karma.
No, I was talking here, from here.
So the God was the one who controls all the karma. That's what he's saying.
Yeah. The power of karma. It's like, the power of action is not yours. It comes with the body. Right? You did not design it. But how you use it is in your desire. Right? That's two different things. I'm talking about the power of action. That is God. So here, this is nature. This is nature. This is our efforts are there. This one, it's given. This is God. This one. Where is the in this whole chain? Where is the obligation or voluntary duty? This one. And the question is, we understand this. Rains cause food. Yeah. Food to body. Yes. Body, Veda, knowing Veda and chanting Vedas. Yes. Brahman, don't know. All of this one, don't know. That Brahman is a cause of action, we don't know that. But Yajna causes rain. Tell me how. Give me an explanation of how that is true. Or if at all it is true.
The trees, the plants that we are.
So you're saying that even before man started doing yajnas, there was no rain?
No, there were trees at that, right?
Yeah.
So,
The whole cycle was
It
going
was
on
the
with
cycle
no
was-
animals, so there were animals.
Yeah. So where does this obligation comes?
sacrifice, right? You give it back what you take, so you sustain.
But
Sustain causes rain. So, through sacrifice.
okay. But how does yajna cause rain?
I mean, from the time when it stopped, we stopped doing things. Let's say we started cutting the trees and using it and never gave it back. That's where we started having the calamities.
Okay.
So,
Nature was already going through cycle. Yajna was done by nature.
Yajna was done by nature. No.
No, we altered it. We consumed something.
Yeah.
We had to give it back to sustain again.
Right.
I think it's down to influencing. Yes, Yajna is a positive influencer.
So yajna is sustaining the balance. So we don't need man to have rains. Right? So you don't need to do yajna. I mean here yajna just doesn't mean putting things in fire. That is dravya yajna. Talking about all the different kinds of yajnas. You don't need yajna to cause rain. Where does yajna come? When we dip into nature, then we affect the cycle. Then it is an obligation to give back and sustain it. Otherwise, this is natural. Right? This is a natural world. The natural cycle is cut off. And then there is havoc. Right? It's not just rain, it is any natural phenomenon that happens when we dip into nature and do not give back or sustain it or help sustain it. Right? So if you look at old, civilizations, old tribes, Native Americans, all of them had this thing that they took things and then they let or gave back or let things thrive, right? They did not take everything and then whole species is gone, extinct. It never happened. Whenever they hunted a little bit and then left it, right, for things to thrive. And that's how they sustained. Every old civilizations, they had sustainable things. It's only now that things are consumed and this is broken. Giving back is broken. Right? And this yajna is what? Any kind of yajna, right? It is not just natural. Krishna is only giving an example of natural cycle. What about society? Give me an example of this in society. Pitru, in the domain of Adhibhuta. This is the domain of Adhidaiva, right? In the domain of Adhibhuta, how does this transform? What yajna is that? So this transforms into, Krishna is not saying this, but that's what it means. This is the cycle in nature. What is the cycle in society? This is Pitru Yajna. Right? Pitru Yajna, we said, is giving our language, culture, and all the good things from the family traditions and all that, passing on to next generation, to their generation, next generation. All of those things is Pitru Yajna, because we owe the debt to the forefathers from who we have got this. Okay. Then, what happens if that is broken?
Morality goes down.
Right? Extinction in culture, right? One culture takes over another culture, and then in the culture, the good practices of all the culture goes away. And here you are sustaining by maintaining it, right? Otherwise, instead of rain, it is traditions. This is a natural phenomenon. Societal phenomenon is sustaining a culture, sustaining a language, sustaining a tradition. All of this goes away. Through which it is a food to the mind, not the body. It's a food to the mind, and the mind is now taken over by something else. Right? Then you break that cycle. Right? So it is true for any of, it is true for natural cycle which Krishna is talking about. It is true for society as well. It is true in Pitru as well. Right? So that is what he is saying. These obligatory actions are actions that are used to maintain or sustain the cycles in nature, the positive cycles in nature that help things thrive, that helps nature thrive, and in return man thrive. It's kind of a win-win. And also society where we thrive, the other generations thrive, and they have the opportunities to learn and then move it forward. Right? This is a cycle. This is Yajna Chakra. Right? This is the Yajna Chakra that Krishna is talking about. Any questions on this? I don't know how much. Wow. Any questions on this? Now, if you don't ask me, that means you've not got this. This is very, very critical because this puts yajna. Remember, I think when we started the third chapter, we were differentiating between a religion and a tradition. What is the difference between a religion and a tradition? Is Christianity a tradition or a religion? Islam a religion or a tradition? Why? What makes Islam a religion? No, not rules, but give me that name.
It's like a
Belief, right? The core of a religion is what? A set of creed, a set of belief that you believe in, without which you cannot be a Muslim or a Christian. And I think in one of the classes I said, what is the belief by which you are a Hindu? And each one gave me different answers.
Yeah, you asked the question, what is the one thing that you know about?
Right? Was there any time in your childhood when your parents told you, you got to believe that Krishna is God, otherwise you're going to hell? Was any of us told that? No. So that means the very nature of Hindu Dharma is, it is a tradition. It is a set of actions that goes from one generation to another. It's not a belief system. See, religion is a belief system. This Dharma is a tradition of actions. And what is at the center of tradition? Yajna.
Well, there is also a belief system within it.
Not center. Yeah.
Like you going to the temple, doing pujas.
No, that's not a belief system.
No.
Belief system is complete.
You don't believe
It's a
in
creed.
gods,
No, we don't believe. I mean, we have bhakti. Bhakti is love. Belief is entirely different. Like, for example, if you go to a Christian, can he be a Christian, he or she be a Christian without believing in the historicity of Jesus Christ? No, you cannot. But you can have Hindus who say, I think Ramayana is just a story that's made up. I don't think Rama was historical. And still he is a Hindu. Why? Because belief is not at the core of Hindu Dharma. Because Hindu Dharma is what? Not a belief system, it's a tradition. It's a tradition of actions. So, each one of us has different sets of things that we believe in or not believe in and all of those things. But, what makes us Hindus or Sanatana Dharmis is a set of actions. We all follow this different set of actions as a tradition that came from forefathers, right? That makes it Hindu Dharma. That's why we are completely different and are unable to answer questions of Christians because they ask in a mode of belief system and we give 25 answers. And then we also tell ourselves we should have studied in childhood. I think, because if I only studied Gita, as a child, I would have answered all of these questions. Why do people wear bindi? Why they wear bangles? Nobody knows, right? You have 10 answers, right? You have 10 answers for that. Because there is no belief system. It's a tradition. It's a system of tradition that has come down. And the core of tradition is what? Yajna. So yajna or obligatory action, sustaining action, is the core of a traditional system. Right? So this is Yajna Chakra. So from next, in the next class, we will take up the topic of role models.
Short question. What
Yes.
is the Rishi Yajna?
Rishi Yajna is whatever we are doing now. The knowledge that has come down, spreading that knowledge is Rishi Yajna. This is basically what we are doing now is Rishi Yajna. So next time, Krishna introduces a new topic, especially true for Arjuna, of having role models. Who is a role model and what kind of a role model should he be or she be and all of those things. So that is, we have another 5 to 10 shlokas on that. And then, very fantastic topic in the end, nature of desire. And why people, indulge in it even though they know it is not correct. All of those comes in the end of the third chapter. Okay? So let's end it with prayer. Om Vasudeva Sutam Devam Kamsachanura Mardanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagatgurum Om